Microtransactions are all over the place these days, and as we all know by now, there are some terrible ways to implement them in a game. But there's also some decent ways of doing it in free-to-play games, for example. Some inoffensive ways, some fair ways of doing it. Basically like what Warframe does.
In an interview with GamesIndustry.biz, Digital Extreme's Vice President of Publishing, Meredith Braun, said microtransactions aren't always bad and it comes down to implementation to make them good. Braun explains that the free-to-play model used in their game, Warframe, is a good example of microtransactions being used correctly and fairly. Braun said, quote, "You can earn nearly everything in Warframe for free over time without game or content progression walls. There's also a trading market where players can trade items for premium currency along with a few other microtransaction related systems that feel natural to the game. We realised early on that players hate being boxed in." Loot boxed in? Is that what she meant there?
Yeah,
hate being loot boxed in?
Yeah, very clever woman.
They value and champion fairness and transparency. The opposite to loot boxes, obviously. She knows what she's talking about. In my opinion, the industry must learn to fight superficial microtransaction integration into their business models that ultimately destroy a player's sense of choice within the game and their perception of what is fair. Braun then goes on to explain that the people who play Warframe don't mind the game's microtransaction model because of the sheer amount and quality of the content they produced for the game.
There are about 30 million people who play Warframe, and there is, generally speaking, strong sentiment in the community that the free-to-play model in the game is fair. Warframe is of such high quality that they think it is fair to support it by buying the odd microtransaction here and there. Braun said, quote, "The fact that we constantly update, fix and improve Warframe means something to our players." And often in the same sentence they say they are blown away by the fact that we aren't a full retail game with paid DLC and that the monetization we have integrated is more than fair. We're looking to redefine what free-to-play means to gamers. We offer a fair, non-intrusive pay model that respects our players' wallets and time. Games Industry also asked Braun her opinion on the recent controversy surrounding Star Wars Battlefront 2 and what she thinks of EA's microtransaction model. She thinks the games industry should see the controversy as a valuable lesson for any developer looking to implement microtransactions in their game.
Braun said, quote, "Giving players a choice and a voice really matters. It's made a huge difference for us and it's a lesson the industry needs to get better at. Whether it's a free game or a $60 game with microtransactions, monetization has to be built into the DNA of the game design itself to succeed. We've spent the past 5 years working tirelessly to present a fair business model to our players through thoughtful yet complex systems that keep them at the forefront of our decision-making process." Braun also mentioned that Digital Extremes want to pass their free-to-play philosophy on to other independent developers, saying, quote, "We're considering growing through publishing external games as a service titles to help impart the knowledge we've gained with Warframe and pass it along to other independent developers."
Well, Warframe is constantly cited in our comments and all over the internet as kind of a good example of free-to-play done right and a good example of microtransactions done right. A good example of a lot of things, actually. But that is probably chief among them. This is how you do this if you're going to do it at all. And, you know, I'm inclined to agree just looking at the words that she's saying right there. She knows this. This is like their business model. Again, same as what we can say with the CD Projekt Red. You know, CD Projekt Red are like the good guy. They're always seen as the people who are doing the right thing, and that is their business model, that is their business plan. Same goes here. That is excellent, and that is the way it should be ideally. And I'm very happy that Warframe is as successful as it is by being a good consumer-friendly game. That is very good.
There are so many ways of introducing and implementing microtransactions into a game, a lot of which I don't agree with. If it's a full-price game, if you're paying for the game, I don't think they should be in full-price games. But that's just me, that's my argument. You think what you like, you're totally entitled to that. But when it comes to free games like Warframe, this is one example of how microtransactions actually benefit the player and the company producing the game itself. This is a free-to-play game, and this game, I've played it myself. It is awesome. For a free-to-play game, it's almost indistinguishable from many AAA titles out there. It's constantly one of the most concurrent played games on Steam at any point. 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 concurrent players at any time. And since it is free to play, obviously they have to make their money somewhere. This is where the microtransactions come in. And like I said, it benefits the gamer and the developer, right? Because you haven't paid anything, you've not paid anything outright, and you get to play and experience this awesome game. You can just ignore the microtransactions if you want. But the people who do want to support the developers say thank you for all the awesome times that they've had with the game. Instead of outright paying for the game, they can just pay what they think it's worth. consider it a donation.
I think what's really interesting about this is just how it's going to affect them in the future. This is more of a long-term strategy because they haven't pissed off their entire fan base, so they can just come back to them with this same model again as many times as they want in the future. This is them sorted now. They can just keep doing this. Great, just make good games, monetize it fairly, don't take advantage of your audience. Everyone's happy, right? You're making money, your audience are playing a great game, and they'll come back and play your next one as well. That's the complete opposite to what EA has done with Battlefront and Warner Brothers with Shadow of War and all those kind of big publishers where it's extremely short term. They just need to make the money bigger and better next year than it was in the last year. Get that share price moving upwards. It's got to keep moving upwards. They've got to keep making money, and to do that, they keep doing extreme short term cash strategies, which is not going to help them in the future, and it's already affecting them. It's already taking a hit in the share price and stuff because they're pissing people off. You don't want to piss off your customers, and that is what Warframe is not doing. And that is what everyone should be doing.
I'm not surprised at all by the way that Meredith is talking about microtransactions here, because she's obviously considered it very carefully. There's a lot of thought gone into the way that they implement it. Exactly the opposite to how Battlefront and EA have implemented it into their game. They're just being as greedy as possible just to try and squeeze the last bit of money out of their players. Remember, this is a full price game. You've paid for this game before. They've been trying to get more money out of you. There's a lot to think about when it comes to microtransactions. From everyone I've spoken to, all the comments that I've seen online, and from my personal experience, I do believe Warframe gets it absolutely right.
Okay, so I know there's a lot of you playing Warframe. You're always in the bloody comments whenever I mention Destiny. What do you think of what Meredith Braun has said? Let us know down in the comments. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and please do subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this every day. Check out our video right there, right now if you want, and the link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. We'll see you next time.